After waiting for what felt like an eternity, Sony has finally announced their 2023 showcase, and fans are extremely excited. And many of us are expecting for PlayStation to come in hot. And after the wait so many of us have endured, they better actually deliver. After all, since Sony did technically skip last year, and they haven't shown off really anything since September of 2021, they should have plenty of projects that they're ready to reveal and get fans excited about the future of PlayStation. The showcase is to be held this Wednesday on May 24th, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And it said it's just going to be a little bit over an hour long. It's going to be focusing on both PlayStation 5 and PS VR2 games in development, as well as third-party games and games from indie creators. In this video, I want to discuss both what I'm excited to see, but also what I'm worried about. After all, I see so many people just jumping over the moon out of hype, but there are some major concerns that we should take in consideration when going into this showcase. But before I take a deep dive into this, I want to take a brief moment and welcome anyone new to the channel. If you are new, please consider subscribing. And if you do happen to enjoy the video, let me know by dropping a like. But we got a lot to get into, so without further ado, let's get into it. But let's kick things off with what I'm actually excited to see at the showcase. And honestly, the number one thing I want to see there is Twisted Metal. With the upcoming show that's due out later this summer on Peacock, now would be a perfect time to show the game off and really show fans what they could look forward to in the future. As we know, Firesprite is the studio taking the helm for Twisted Metal. Not only could this game revive a dead franchise, it could totally shake up that perception that Sony has. After all, I see it all the time online that Sony only makes third-person story-driven games, and a combat car game would smash that narrative. If done correctly, this could be a true system seller, another highlight franchise for the PlayStation catalog. Next up on the list is Wolverine from Insomniac Studios, and I have to admit this is sort of a mixed bag for me. While I do want to see what this studio can do with the Wolverine character, after all, I think their Spider-Man games were truly amazing and honestly one of the better PlayStation exclusives I played in a long time. That being said, if Wolverine ends up just being another open world game that kind of mimics Spider-Man, I'm gonna be greatly disappointed. Not only do I not want this game to be open world, I actually want this game to go in a totally different direction. I want it to be extremely combat focused. I want this game to play more like Ninja Gaiden than God of War or Spider-Man. Very fast-paced combat with dismemberment, blood, and just overall violent. Wolverine fights with adamantium claws, for crying out loud. If you're unable to delimb your opponents, then I feel like this game will truly just not have some of the magic it should have. Plus, with how talented Insomniac Studios is, seeing them just make another open world superhero game would feel like a waste of their talents. As developers, I feel like they could deliver so much more and really offer more variety in their titles. I'm sure a ton of people are going to disagree with me on this one, but I'm just being honest with what I really expect and hope to see from Wolverine. Now, I could go on and go down the list of every Sony first party studio I want to see there, such as Bluepoint, Ben Studio, Sony Santa Monica. And while there are many reasons to be hyped for this upcoming show, there is some stuff that has me worried. For example, Sony is actually going to be dedicating time to PS VR2, as we already know that will be making an appearance at the showcase. It's even stated in the PlayStation blog. However, I personally feel like that now is just not the right time to show this off. I'm not knocking any fans of the VR2 headset. I just wish that they would do a showcase dedicated to VR and have this showcase focus more on just the PlayStation 5 titles, and we can see their upcoming roadmap. After all, this showcase is just a little bit over an hour long. So even if VR2 games only take up, let's say, 15 minutes, That's approximately 25% of the hour dedicated to VR. And after waiting for so long to see what's coming next to the PlayStation 5, one of the last things I want to hear about is upcoming VR2 games. But VR is not my only concern. After all, Sony does have a tendency to focus too much time on third-party games. Don't get me wrong, you could show off third-party games, however, with how long they've been radio silent, if they're going to do it, these games need to be absolute bangers and actually really relate to the PlayStation franchise. For example, if they show off the rumored Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, that would be a major win. Even if the game's not exclusive, it would be a win just because of how much of the Sony fan base wants that game to come out. That being said, if they start showing off third-party games that we've seen so many times before, if we see more on Final Fantasy 16, it's like, why? You have such a limited amount of time. Why are you showing off a game we've already seen? In fact, go back and watch the 2021 showcase. Realistically, without Insomniac, that showcase would have been a complete bust. They showed off so much third-party games. I mean, in 2021, they showed off games like Forspoken, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction, and Alan Wake Remaster, Ghostwire Tokyo, Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy. And while some of those turned out to be great and some of them not so great, at the end of the day, those are not Sony games. Without the last 5 minutes of the showcase of Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine, that whole hour was just so lackluster, and I don't want a repeat of that in 2023. All I'm saying is time goes by very fast, and I want to see more of the first party lineup instead of third party games and VR games. Show me the roadmap for Sony's first party and get me excited about the PlayStation 5. One last point I want to make is Sony has definitely started to move in a different direction, and that is they're focusing more and more on games as a live service. After all, it has been revealed that Sony has 10 live service games in the works. That is a lot of manpower and financial resources the company is pouring into that genre of game. In fact, I've even seen it mentioned that Sony wants most of these games out by 2026. That's a pretty short window. I fear that they're focusing too much on trying to get a massive payout and just sort of have their own version of Fortnite or Apex Legends. And while I do understand it from the company point of view as a consumer, that's not the direction I want to see this platform go in. I mean, do we really want to see a bunch of multiplayer live service games announced? While I am extremely excited for Twisted Metal, could you imagine if we see Twisted Metal live service game, Last of Us Factions 2 live service game? Let's say they bring back SOCOM, but it's a live service game. How many games as a live service are they going to show at the showcase? After all, if 2026 is the deadline or the time frame they want these games to come out, they're gonna have to start showing them off. Having said all this, I want to make it clear, I am pretty excited to watch the showcase, and I'm hoping after I watch it, some of my concerns have been laid to rest, and I realize that Sony is still going to put out the titles that we do love while shifting the focus and have some of their studios focus on multiplayer games. I'm just overly concerned that they're going all in on live service, and the single player games are going to be taking a back seat, are going to be so few and far between. The days of the glorious, PS3, PS4, whatever are going to be long gone. And I'm hoping that's not the future of PlayStation. But I want to hear what you all think. Are you guys excited for Wednesday to see what PlayStation has in store for us? Will you be watching the showcase live this Wednesday? Do you have any concerns about the direction Sony seems to be going in? Let me know in the comments down below. As for me, I got a ton of work to do, so I'm going to get back to the grind, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.